On the old world of Kalimdor, there are many distinct and fantastical landscapes to explore. To the south of Ashenvale Forest, an impressive mountain range dominates, a synthesis of Night Elven and Tauren territory that forms a steep, rugged environment. These are the Stonetalon Mountains, first seen during the Orc's journey to Kalimdor in Warcraft 3, and they can be visited in-game to this day. The classic WoW version of this zone is especially unique, and its layout and relative lack of quests have led it to earn a reputation as one of the less memorable areas of the game. However, today I want to revisit a few specific parts of this zone to highlight what could still be hidden within the crags of Stonetalon. As always, thank you for your fun comments and support, and with all that being said, let's get right into it. To start with, let's take a look at the map of Stonetalon. Notice anything in particular? If you said a lot of mountains, you're on the right track. Compared to most other zones in classic WoW, Stonetalon is very segmented into what I like to call bubbles of content, surrounded by high mountains on nearly all sides. These bubbles are connected by narrow valleys and trails, which on their own don't really serve a purpose apart from shuttling players from one bubble to another. Looking at a zone like Westfall, you can pretty much go from any point on the map to any other point in a straight line, while in the case of Stonetalon, the mountains are obstacles, forcing players to take predetermined paths that open up the opportunity for PvP interactions. Entering from the nearby Barrens, adventurers pass through the Greatwood Vale, where the Grim Totem Tauren make camp. Boulder Slide Ravine and Sishir Canyon are home to many treacherous mobs, but the Windshear Crag in the northeast is even more dangerous. Here, the Venture Co. cartel clear-cuts the pine trees hoping to make a profit, burning away what cannot be reaped. Farther west, within a secluded valley, is Sun Rock Retreat, the main horde base in the zone. While it may not seem like it at first glance, this small village is actually a great example of some more detailed terrain compared to the typical bubble and trail combo. Just to the north of town, one can find a secretive trail leading up above the valley that runs east to west and meets the road to the Charred Vale. There are a few small groves of trees here, and dropping down a bit, observant players can even stumble across an artisan enchanting trainer. On the other side of Sun Rock, two entrance points lead up to the southern mountains, where they join together and guide players down into the Charred Vale itself, which we'll come back to shortly. One final detail can be found in this area at the small pond, where you can find both a Night Elf bridge and a series of Tauren totems crossing the water, continuing this theme of intersecting elven and tribal elements. Farther north, Murkfallen Lake is a refuge for nesting wyverns, and it is here where the road toward the summit ends. Only a natural path leads on to Stonetalon Peak, an elven refuge complete with ancient woodlands and ruins. The Talon Den also resides here, a barrow den home to a group of Night Elven druids. Alliance players have the chance to see a little bit more of this zone on a flight path down to Ashenvale or beyond, which takes riders down the other side of the mountain toward the Veiled Sea. There's one more location on the map we haven't looked at yet, and that is the Charred Vale. This blackened valley is the gateway to the Grey Lands of Desolus beyond, and is more or less the ultimate destination when it comes to quests here. It's the place you go, but not necessarily the place you want to stay. Harpies, basilisks, and corrupted elementals call this area home, but it was not always so inhospitable. As seen on the sign near the entrance to the area, the post has been boarded over, indicating it was not always known as the Charred Vale. Looking at the RPG lore, it is extremely likely this area was once called the Valley of the Blood Furies, a reference to the Harpies that still call this area home. But what happened to this area to cause it to be so bleak? We can gain some insight from Kayla Shadowspear, a night elf who has set up camp with a gnome near Windshear Crag to report on the activities of the Venture Co. I'm unsure what the Venture Co did to the Vale, but it's obvious they were overpowered by the creatures there. They set the forest aflame and used their inventions of destruction to decimate as much of the Vale as possible. But in their ignorance, they also released something else. burning spirits, elementals of flame, stone, and rage. After dealing with a few of the elementals in the Vale, the Sentinel has one more piece of information to give us. It seems obvious to me that the protectors of the Vale, the Treants, had something to do with the Venture Co. being driven back. Unfortunately, even those once great guardians have now become corrupt. I told Gaxim I'd collect a sample from a wounded Treant and allow him to study it in order to figure out if that's true. Bring me some of the shrapnel so the gnome can tell me more. From this dialogue, we can infer the goblins attempted something similar in the Charred Vale to what they are doing in the Windshear Crag, burning and clear-cutting every tree in sight. However, after this quest, the storyline here ends with you returning to Ashenvale to report on your findings, without really anything being solved as to the specifics of the disaster. Something else didn't sit right with me either: the distance. Looking on the map, it didn't make sense to me that the goblins would leave the Vale and travel such a great distance back to the crag with virtually no other clues as to their presence in this zone. It seemed incomplete, but after doing some investigating, I found something very fascinating. I present to you all the Venture Co. Retreat, tucked away in the mountains just north of the Charred Vale. This area is not accessible by normal means in-game, so I'll try to be as detailed here as I can. While there aren't any creatures here, the landscape and objects seem relatively finished, with a small lumber camp and related constructs dotting this valley. You can even see a number of flying machine platforms on the northern slopes, and a crashed flying machine as well. A small cave entrance can be found in the northeast of the valley, but it doesn't lead anywhere. This detailed area eventually just fades away into placeholder terrain in the west, and doesn't contain anything noteworthy. However, this valley's existence in the first place is strong evidence, in my opinion, that this Charred Vale storyline could have once had more significance within Stonetalon. Checking out the geography of the surrounding mountains, there is a fairly obvious channel you can see here that may have once been a path accessible to players. While it's hard to say for certain, the cave I mentioned earlier could have also connected to another part of the zone, perhaps the slope leading up to Stonetalon Peak. In terms of the story, having this area in the game would allow one of the main threats to the zone to be fully addressed, perhaps giving players the chance to take down the pyromaniacs behind the destruction of the Vale. It's probably a reach to expect this zone to be updated anytime soon, even in Classic Plus, but I really wanted to mention this leftover from WoW's development that could help bring some new life into something of a forgotten zone. Dustwallow Marsh, Searing Gorge, and several other zones received small updates after the game's launch, so why couldn't we expect something similar for the Stonetalon Mountains going forward into Season of Discovery? Let me know your thoughts down below, and who knows, maybe we'll have the chance to explore the Venture Co. Retreat sometime in the future. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you.